Yo everyone, what's up? This is the complete guide for your Axis army in Normandy. Now in the next minutes I'm gonna go with you through the campaign levels, through the weapons and vehicles you get, and we're gonna shortly discuss which are worth buying, which are not, which are hidden gems and which are traps and just wastes for your silver orders and bronze orders. Same thing for the vehicles. Some vehicles are really good, some are not, but overplayed. Also, I'm gonna give you strategies, general strategies for the maps and the campaign itself, but also specific strategies against what the Americans are bringing up against you. Because contrary to popular belief, the Axis aren't overpowered, and overall, if you're not really careful, the Americans are very easily gonna stomp you. So we really need some great strategies against those jumbos, against those P-47s, against those M2 carbines and all of the other dangerous stuff. So let's go. As we saw in the beginning, the Normandy campaign has a very specific, distinct design. You're gonna encounter many beach maps, like the famous DDAY and Vesumer. You're gonna encounter lots of fortifications on all kinds of maps, especially if you go deeper into the heartland of France in the Normandy area. You're gonna see many more bunkers. Now, this leads to a problem for the Americans because they, most of the time, are gonna attack you. And it's very hard if you're taking fortified positions. So the Americans are getting some really strong features in order to overcome your defense advantage. Now these features are, they use lots of grenades, lots of explosions, lots of grenade launchers, lots of white phosphorus to clear out the trenches and the bunkers. They like rolling out or gray zoning with their tanks and shelling you from far away with high explosives. If you're sitting in a bunker and using either the stationary machine guns, or if you even build a heavy machine gun nest in a bunker, which is extremely strong, you may feel strong and safe, but one single high explosive shell from any American tank and all of your crew is dead. So there's lots of things to be afraid of. And the worst of all are the American planes, because they have some overpowered rockets. So we need some really good strategies to take care of them. Now, historically speaking, within the game of Enlisted, Normandy was the second campaign, and it settled around the year 1944. So very late game, late in the war, meaning you get some really strong weapons. In terms of soldier weapons, rifles and so on, you get access to, let's see, some really early swag. Now, let's take a quick look before we jump into a detailed overview. You get, as a highlight, some really strong planes right in the beginning, mainly in order to counter the overpowered American planes. You get a Flammenwerfer at level 6, which is extremely early. In other campaigns, you have to wait around level 20. So this is amazing. And you get an MP40 extremely early, and you get quite viable tanks and so on. So yeah, this is full of great stuff. And don't even start about the late game stuff, because it's gonna get completely insane in the end. So let's dive into the level overview. We just had the honor of witnessing one of the best beginner rifle in the whole game. Now Enlisted, one of the few games where your beginner equipment is completely strong and easily can handle late game overpowered equipment. This is specifically true for the German K98 starter rifle. Now this starter rifle is, if you don't upgrade it, already very strong. It deals the normal high bolt action damage. It's a little bit slow, but it has amazing sights, as you saw. And these sights are the main reason why this weapon is so good. Literally, you don't have to think about aiming, you just look through the sights and they don't obstruct you at all. On the contrary, they actually help you focusing, concentrating, and getting in, zooming into the target. So yeah, absolutely great. If you want to see one with upgraded version, just look at this version. It has a little bit higher damage and it increases to 64 shots per minute, which is really, really good. So absolutely good. If you like the sights, feel free to just use it for a long time, because the Kar98K, absolutely amazing weapon. Also, it looks very beautiful within the game, one of my favorite weapons in the whole game, and you get it completely for free. Every single soldier that you buy is gonna come equipped with one. Now, after you played your first game with your new army in Normandy, you're gonna unlock the Puma. Now at level 2, you get one of the best starter vehicles in the whole game, and in other campaigns this would be one of the best tanks overall. Reasons for that are, well, plenty. First of all, it has some really good sloped armor. This thing, and this is no joke, can survive bazooka attacks better than a Tiger, very often. Reason for that is, it is sloped from the sides and sloped from the front, even from the behind. Now, this tank can survive TNT attacks better than Tiger tanks. Tigers, you drop a TNT on top, it dies. You drop it on front, it dies. Or from the back, it dies. Here, TNT on the front side actually won't kill it always. And especially with bazookas, if you shoot the Puma, he can tank on average more bazooka hits than a Tiger can. So this first beginner tank literally can be tankier when it comes to close range attacks than the late game tanks, than the absolutely last tank you unlock. So this is a big advantage. Of course, against other tanks it's weak because they usually one or two shot it. But well, against them you have the mobility advantage because you're 90 kilometers per hour fast. This may be the absolutely fastest vehicle in the whole game. Reason for that are its 8 wheels, and in the beginning they are very hard to use. You're gonna get stuck very often because they behave strangely, but once you get used to them, you become really mobile. Now with this mobility you can outflank all the tanks in the game. You can easily outflank all the tanks. You can even outrace enemy bombing runs, because if they drop bombs you have 2 to 3 seconds time to drive away. This speed is more than enough to survive any bombing. You can even survive rocket attacks if it doesn't land them perfectly. So yeah, whenever something is going on, just drive away. Enemies who don't cook their TNT won't ever blow you up. Now against enemy tanks you want to drive away and make sure they can't hit you well. And you want to flank them so you can start shooting them from the side, because all of the American tanks have very weak sides. Even the Jumbo, which is almost indestructible, can be easily one-shot with a good timely placed hit from the side into the side area. Your cannon is quite good for that purpose. It is 50 millimeters with a long cannon barrel, so absolutely strong. And on top of it, since you have 4 people, combined with quite a tanky, fast vehicle, you can use it as a mechanized infantry strategy unit. Basically, you just rush forward and go behind enemy lines to attack them, either with the tank or with the crew itself, which you can equip with SMGs, or you just try to flank enemies or outmaneuver enemies so you don't have to fight them possibly, and just drive quickly to the next objective and capture it. Now with this vehicle you can actually do fast capturing, because let's say your team is capping the current objective and you think, alright, in 10 seconds we're gonna cap it. You just start driving to the next objective, and while you're on its way, your team is gonna capture successfully, and right in the next 5 seconds you're gonna be on the next objective already. And then you just leave the tank and start capping. And this is only possible basically with this vehicle. All the other tanks in the German campaign, or basically in the whole game for Germans, can't do that because they're way too slow. This thing is actually fast enough. And it can also climb up hills, which basically no German tank can. So yeah, this thing gives you all of it right from the beginning. I recommend leveling up this tank in order to get all of the advantages and to make it faster. It's quite cheap and it's better than the next tank that comes in. So coming in the next level, you get engineers at level 3. Now this is amazing because you can right from the beginning basically put engineers into all of your squads and be able to build rallies and carry your team, or just play well, because without engineers this game doesn't work. So really good, really good. Also the fact that you can build anti-air guns right in the beginning, extremely helpful. because you're gonna need those anti-air guns. After the most recent patch 1 week ago, beginning of February, the anti-air guns became actually much better against enemy planes, and now you can easily shoot them down with just 2 hits. So this engineer squad even worth more as a squad itself in Normandy than in other campaigns. Now, a little bit later, level 4, you get the first attacker pilot, and this plane would be the best plane overall in most other campaigns. Here is your first plane. Now this is ridiculous. It has a very strong 37mm cannon, absolutely insane. It has 2 30mm cannons. It has 2 machine guns additionally, and well, basically as a defense mechanism. And it has 4 rockets for blowing up enemy ground targets. This plane is extremely good. Rockets usually are much better than bombs because it's after you use them for 5 times very quickly, you will be able to aim better with them than with bombs. Because bombs are always complicated, they give the enemy time, and depending on the plane, the bombs are dropped differently. But rockets are basically always the same, and they can blow up everything. So these rockets are amazing, and you can even destroy tanks with your cannons if you shoot at them. And enemy planes are gonna get hit and destroyed with these cannons from 1 or 2 shots. So absolutely good, absolutely strong. If you're good at flying, I recommend using it because you can make sure the enemies don't get air superiority because you can hunt enemy planes and you can blow up everything on the ground. Absolutely amazing. Now level 5 gives you the first trap. It's the FNAP. Now the FNAP looks quite cool. It's on theory basically the pendant to the American grease gun because it's, well, very slow but has an advantage. The advantage is 40 rounds and very low recoil and reload speed. But here comes the problem. The damage is just normal and it's very slow. Very slow means you need to land many hits. In this way, in this regard, it's just worse than a grease gun because why should I take more rounds if I can take just more damage? Yeah, because having more rounds and little damage means you need to land more hits. So this is not really that good. It's okay, but here's the thing. If you unlock your assaulter squad fast, just give them either the MP34, which has even better recoil, by the way, but it's faster, or give them the FNAP, depending on what you like more. But oh, the recoil is worse, and this has better recoil. But the best move is to actually wait for the MP40 because they all cost the same. And once you unlock this, you absolutely want the MP40 because it's just better than all the previous SMGs. And you get it very early on, so just avoid the FNAP, it's not really worth getting. Now, this is one of the very special cases for Normandy. You get flamethrowers extremely early, and flamethrowers are a complete blast to play in this campaign. As I already explained, this campaign gives you all the reasons to play Flametroopers, and it also gives you Flametroopers at level 6, so you get them extremely early. I strongly recommend playing them. Not only are they very fun, they're also one of the strongest squads in the game itself. It's a 7-man squad with a very good specialist distribution, with one of the best soldiers in the whole game, and whenever you're in a very tight position, when you see enemies are flooding in too hard, you need to defend your position, just flame everything. Or when you see too many defenders in a position, just also flame everything, and you're gonna be very happy about how the Flammenwerfer 35 solves many of your issues. Now on the next level, you unlock the radio operator together with the Gewehr 43. Now Gewehr 43 is one of the best semi-auto weapons in the game. It gives you 10 rounds, it gives you very fast reload, and it gives you quite good sights. Now, if you like semi-autos, just use it. It's amazing, it's really strong, and it's actually better than the Garand. Now, the Garand is one of the best weapons the Americans have. you just get something straight up better. Absolutely amazing. And you get the radio operator. Now, radio operators in theory are great because Normandy has lots of open terrain, but since the maps are gigantic, for example the beach landing maps, you never know where to artillery strike. Sometimes objectives are really good for artillery strikes, but many times they're not really that good. Also, since Normandy is the foremost air combat map, usually both teams are going to try to get air superiority. So calling in bomber raids isn't really that effective because your enemy teams are going to shoot them down very often. Also, anti-air guns are very common in this campaign, so another reason why you don't really want to send in your bomber raids. So without bomber raids, there's no reason to play radio operators except for leveling up this weapon if you want to use it. So feel free to decide if you like it. I personally wouldn't invest the time in using them. Now instead, I recommend playing the Mannlicher bolt-action rifle. Now the Mannlicher is the absolute go-to bolt-action for Normandy Axis. Reason for that is, it has, once you unlocked it, once you upgraded it, very high damage on basically all the relevant distances. It one-shots everything you hit, and it has an extremely fast fire rate, combined with very good sights. Now you saw the sights in the clip, they completely don't obstruct you, but they still give you enough help, this little metal part here, in order to aim. Now this weapon is absolutely amazing. It's absolutely amazing. It's one of the best bolt actions in the game. Very fun to use and comfortable to use. Only disadvantage is it doesn't have a bayonet, but well, that's the compensation for very good stats like high fire rate and extremely high fire rate and quite perfect sights. So if you like bolt actions, I recommend get yourself the Mannlichers. These Mannlichers I recommend using until you either start playing semi-autos if you like them, or until you get the FG42 obviously, since this is the definitely best rifle in the whole campaign. Coming in with level 8, we get the Sturmpistol squad in the anti-tank gunner. Now, the Sturmpistol is as ridiculous as it looks like. It's basically a revolver, or basically a pistol with an anti-tank projectile and some protection for your shoulder. This thing sadly disappoints because it's even worse than the American Piat. Now the Piat at least has some range, at least can blow up reliably tanks if you learn how to aim with it. This thing can't, because it can't really hit targets very well from far away. Its penetration is too low to destroy targets from the front, and blowing up targets from the side requires you to get too close. So most of the time you're just going to get killed on the way there. So this squad not really that worth using currently, at least until we get some heavy anti-tank gun structures in the upcoming months and updates. Now level 9 brings you the MP40.
Gut gemacht, Männer! Greifen wir die nächste Position an!
We get one of the best weapons in the whole campaign, and it's the MP40. Reason for being the best one of the best weapons is very simple. MP40 doesn't have any weakness. It's either average or it's really good. The damage is quite good. The fire rate is, for a low level SMG, quite good. Reload speed is extremely fast, and the recoil is basically non-existent. You don't get any horizontal recoil, so as long as you just aim down while you're spraying, you can spray the whole magazine and reliably headshot enemy groups. This is extremely precise, extremely fun to use, and together with the really good stats overall, you get an SMG that's so good that it's actually not worth buying almost all other SMGs. MP40 much better than the first two, and much better than the next 3 SMGs, especially when you count in the price that they get. So in theory there are situations where these two can be better, but these two also cost 3 times as much as an MP40. And you need to level up other squads. MP40, you can just level up the beginner assaulter squad and you have access to the upgrades. So this weapon is very cheap, very reliable, and really strong. And the best thing is, once you get the late in the campaign, the much better SMGs, like the, well, STG for example, you can just give your, well, MP40s to your, well, vehicle crews. I have an MP40 on every single pilot that I have, making these pilots a paratrooper group, because, well, I can just drop some bombs off the plane, and if I want, I let the soldiers jump out, and then they have 2 MP40s to shred enemies. So yeah, MP40, one of the best buys you can get. At level 10 we get the Panzer III N. Now, if you like some bigger damage with your cannon, and especially if you like gray zone camping, this is much better than the Puma, because overall it has better armament, and especially for long range engagements where enemy anti-tank guns or tanks are gonna shoot at you. The cannon can deal more damage, and you have quite a low profile compared to other tanks, and good camouflage, so you can actually hide quite well. What you shouldn't do with this tank is you shouldn't get close to any enemies, because even though you have these side skirts, which in real life protected quite well against bazookas, within the game they basically don't do anything. So yeah, any pirate or bazooka that shoots into this area is gonna one-shot you. TNT packs exploding here or anywhere next to the tank are gonna blow you up. So yeah, with this thing, especially since it's quite weak, it's weaker in within the game than it's written here, you absolutely want to stay away from the action and gray zone camp. Now, if you don't like the strategy, just keep on playing the Puma or wait for the next tank, because otherwise you're gonna suffer a lot, because this tank is quite easy to deal with. At level 11 you get the Beretta machine gun. Now, your first machine gunner squad, usually you get machine gunners a little bit earlier. Here you get them a little bit later, because you get flamethrowers quite early and anti-tank gunners early. Now, this thing is okay. Now, actually not really. Actually not really. It has horrible sights, it's very slow, and it has bad recoil, low magazine size, and usually I recommend playing machine gunners, because machine guns are basically always a better semi-auto rifle. In this case, since you get access to the Gewehr 43, the Gewehr 43 is just better than this. And this squad is not really worth the hassle to level it up and using the Beretta, because the Beretta literally only good if you mount it, and mounting is very slow and doesn't really work that well in the game. So this is another trap squad. They look cool, they have cool camouflage, but the power level just isn't there. At level 12 we get access to the first fighter squad, and this fighter plane basically is just a worse attacker plane, because instead of rockets you get 4 very small bombs, and instead of a bunch of cannons and machine guns you get 1 cannon and 2 heavy machine guns. Now overall this is a much worse plane than the attacker plane, but since there can only be 1 attacker and 1 fighter plane in the air at one time for your squad, for your team, if you like to fly, it's worth getting both planes, so you're more flexible in order to find an open slot for a vehicle in the match. So that's basically the only reason to use this, because the other plane is a very good attacker plane and also a better fighter plane than this. Now level 13 gives you the Mortar squad. This squad, as usual, isn't really useful. It's extremely underwhelming. I already said the campaign has many houses, many bunkers, many fortifications, and these are all bad news for mortars. Combined with the fact that this is just a normal weak mortar, this squad is basically useless, and you will extremely rarely see any mortar squads being played, and I can assure you, people who try them out in the next match, they won't play them anymore. So yeah, this is basically a trap squad. Whenever you get a trap squad, just level it up and take the soldiers and take away all of the equipment into your equipment pool and just put them back in and just take the squad out again. This is literally, they are good for getting free TNT packs and so on, but that's all they're good for. Also, I recommend, once you unlock them, buy yourself 10 TNT packs, so you can actually put 1 on every soldier to blow up enemy tanks. TNT packs are extremely useful in this campaign. You're gonna encounter tanks always, literally always, and most of them even close. So having a TAT pack ready to blow up an enemy tank, really good. Now at level 14 we get the Sniper Gewehr 43. This is a sniper semi-auto. Sniper semi-autos, well, they're a very strange case because you don't get the reliable one-shot kills from the bolt actions because the damage is very low. Like, you will basically always deal this damage or this damage. This means you basically always need 2 hits unless you get a very good hit or the enemy is damaged. Well, you might be able to shoot quite a lot, but you have ridiculous recoil, so you still have to wait. So overall, semi-auto sniper rifles aren't really good. In real life they were good because they had almost the same damage as bolt actions, but in the game, for balancing reasons, the damage is much lower than bolt actions, so I don't really recommend a squad. A, it's gonna waste time to level it up, and B, the bolt action standard Kar98 sniper rifle isn't not only cooler, but it's also just much better and more effective, especially since in many maps you're gonna have to snipe your incoming enemies from far away, and the semi-auto just won't deal enough damage to do that reliably. Now level 15 gives you the first real big boy. This is the Panzer IV. In other campaigns this is the last tank that you get for the Axis. Here it's just the low-medium tank, which shows just how strong the tanks are in this campaign. And this is the first really proper tank. It has really good armor. Look at these 8 centimeters on the hull on the front. Absolutely ridiculous. It has, well, a really good cannon too. 75 millimeters long barrel. And it has machine guns. Now, it's very slow though. Very slow, typical for German tanks. But it's a tank that can actually take damage. It can actually drive around, reposition itself, reliably kill most American tanks with one shot, especially if you aim into the weak spots, like you want to do with the Jumbos. And you can reliably just spam high explosive shells into your enemy infantry and get lots of kills. So yeah, if you like using tanks, this is an absolute go-to quite early on in the campaign. Next, at level 16 you get the Beretta M1918, and this is a complete horrible trap. The weapon has some of the worst sights in the game. You literally can't see where you aim because some genius thought putting the magazine on top of it would be good. Then it has a very small magazine size combined with ridiculous fast fire rate means while you can't even aim at what you're shooting and miss all of your bullets, you won't even have any bullets left after 2 seconds. So yeah, this weapon is just bad. The damage, if the damage at least would be good, it would be usable, but the damage is also low. So yeah, this weapon just complete trap. Complete trap. I don't even put it on my vehicles because it's just much worse than MP40 in basically every way. This is just funny. Now level 17 gives you one of the most important unlocks. It gives you the grenade launchers. Grenade launchers, as I always say, extremely good for leveling up fast because you can put riflemen with a grenade launcher in every new squad and just get lots of experience quickly. Also, extremely great for cleaning out bunkers. Exactly, trolling your enemies with your grenade launcher is amazing when they try to concentrate mass, when they try to hide behind objectives or some hidings, when they try to hide in a bunker or in a trench. Absolutely amazing, absolutely amazing. Also, enemies really like to snipe and camp within buildings behind windows. Now, guess what? One grenade launcher shot into the window clears out everything. So these are really strong, really strong. Also, Normandy has the property that very many objectives are susceptible to very swingy capture dynamics. Meaning, sometimes if a big push of enemies comes, you may be completely overwhelmed and they may take the objective extremely quickly. Now, having a 9-man rifleman squad is the best protection against it. Not only can you easily deal with large groups of enemies because you have grenade launchers, but you can also just have the mass on the objective very quickly to defend from a fast push and fast capture. So yeah, this squad extremely useful, extremely worth it, absolutely amazing. Now at level 18 you get one of the most overpowered, most ridiculous things in the whole game. Not only the campaign, in the whole game. This is absolutely bonkers. You get the Attacker 2 pilot, and the Attacker 2 pilot gives you the Junkers 188. Now this plane is, the more you look at it, the more overpowered it seems. It has 5 people. It has 1 pilot and 4 people manned on machine guns. Meaning, whenever you fly around, as long as you don't move too shakily left and right, your machine gunners will shoot down all the planes behind you, sometimes even next to you. Actually behind you and in front of you. This is absolutely amazing. Now you can't use the machine guns yourself, and you can't really use them yourself. You can only just, well, let your crew use them, but it's more than you need. Yeah, they're just gonna completely deal with planes, with enemy planes while you're flying in the air. Now what you want to do is you want to drop your 6 heavy bombs, 6 500-pound bombs, 6 250-kilogram bombs. This is the German answer to the American P-47. Now P-47 is much easier to use. It's extremely fast for the first time you fly it. This thing actually needs quite a long time to level up, so you get your 5-man crew. But once you did it, it becomes a complete monster. And once you learn how to fly it, you can just fly around the map and constantly bring terror to the enemies on the ground, because everything is gonna die once you drop your 1.5 tons of bombs. And the best thing is, after you drop them, you can just leave the plane, jump out of it, and you have 5 paratroopers. And just give them MP40s, and you have a really, really strong fighting force, making this actually advantage compared to the American planes, because the American planes, the strong ones, all only have 1 pilot. This thing has 5 pilots, so it literally doubles up as an assaulter squad and an extremely strong bomber plane all in one. Now level 19 gives you the MG34. Actually the first machine gun worth using, and the only reason to actually now to start use the machine gun squad that you unlocked before. Now this thing has 50 rounds, which is already the first sign of a good machine gun. It has a really good fire rate, and although it has low vertical recoil, it has very high horizontal. So what you want to do is you only want to spray when you have a group of enemies very close to you. At mid and long range you just want to do either 1 bullet or a very short burst of 2-3 bullets to not be, well, victimized by this horizontal recoil. Now this weapon really strong. This weapon actually brings you an advantage against everything the Americans bring to the table. They might have their nice Browning machine guns, which have very good sights and very comfortable low recoil, but they don't have 50 rounds and they don't have 800 rounds per minute. So yeah, this is one of the best ways to overpower enemies, but you really have to be patient in order to play it well and strategically right, because just trying to run around and spray doesn't really work with it. But playing it smartly actually works very well. Now the Panzer IV H coming with the Tanker 2 squad at level 20 is a very special case, because you have already a really good tank from before, the Panzer IV J, the H version isn't really better, isn't really significantly better. And if you already leveled up your previous tank, which I recommend you did, you're already gonna have a much better version than this tank being not leveled up. Now, since vehicles are extremely expensive to level up, this Tanker 2 squad literally is not really worth it, because you won't really get any better tanks until you unlock Tanker 3 squads. And then you really want to start grinding the Tanker squad again. So you putting this Tanker squad in is literally not giving you any advantages, it just gives you more work, which is very special in the game, because usually this doesn't happen. Usually you always want to use the new tank squads coming with the new tanks, but here you literally don't get anything important until the Tanker 3s with their Panthers and Tigers. So just save your time and invest your time in grinding other squads instead. Yes, exactly. This is absolutely bonkers. Now, contrary to Berlin, you don't unlock the FG42-1, and you also don't unlock the normal version, you unlock the sniper version. Now, historically speaking, there were quite many scoped sniper versions, so it's absolutely accurate. The thing with this weapon is the following. It's one of the very few semi-auto sniper weapons in the game that are actually worth it. You still get only the limited semi-auto damage. So you at mid-range you need 2 hits, as you also saw in the clip, but you have 20 rounds. You have 20 rounds in an extremely good scope. The scope magnifies a lot. You can zoom in far away, which is also quite rare for semi-auto sniper rifles. You have very fast reload speed and you have ridiculously low recoil. Now, all you need on your snipers is basically vertical recoil reduction, and you can just spray with this thing. You can just spray with this thing because it basically has no horizontal recoil, only vertical. So yeah, this thing is amazing, absolutely amazing. If you love using snipers, absolutely take your time to level up the FG42 Sniper 3 squad. And make sure you, well, have very high leveled and perked snipers. Make sure you upgrade the FG42 sniper version, and then you're gonna get some extremely good firepower. Also, I wouldn't play the sniper squad itself long term. What I do is just put it into every squad where you can do. You can put it nicely into the assaulter squad and into the anti-tank gunner squad. That late game becomes very viable. And if you don't want an anti-tank gunner on your rifleman squad, or if you don't want an anti-tank gunner on your rifle squad, just take a sniper so you have more snipers. Yeah, these FG42 snipers are amazing to play. Sometimes they're even absolutely needed and required to stop an enemy push or to attack into a fortified enemy position where enemies are hiding between bunkers and windows, where you can just snipe them away from far away. And if you get rushed by a group of enemies, doesn't matter, just spray them away. You can also do the following. You can just take this and then you can just take away the scope. And then you don't have the scope anymore. But, well, guess what? I'd rather play it with the scope. So, yeah. Because otherwise you just have a normal FG42, which is better than the FG42-1. But the advantage of having the scope and having the possibly best sniper rifle in the whole game is just too much to not use it. Now here comes one of the hardest things for beginners, but also many other players to grasp, and it's the trap of the level 22 assaulter squad. Now this squad doesn't give you basically any advantages over the assaulter 1 squad that you already have. Reason for that is, all of the SMGs that you get, and it's these 3 SMGs, they're not that worth it. Well, these 2 are absolutely not worth it. They're extremely expensive with 3 silver. You're gonna have to pay 6 stars for upgrades, and they're only better than the MP40 when you get the last upgrade. Until the last upgrade, which costs extremely much, they are just worse than MP40. So they're not really worth it. And they're absolutely worse than the last SMG, assault rifles SMGs that you unlock. So they're at best only good while you still grinding. So they're not worth it. The only weapon that's actually worth playing over MP40 is the Beretta 38, because this, without any unlocks, gives you 40 rounds and quite a good fire rate and a little bit low damage. If you unlock it, it becomes actually significantly better than let's put it this way, it becomes enough better than the MP40 to play it above, but it's still not much better because it costs 3 silver. For 3 silver you could expect more, so you can just completely ignore these. The only one of them I like is this one because it looks really cool. It looks really cool, and the history behind it is also nice because it's basically a SMG machine gun mixture, but the power level just isn't there. MP40 still most of the time better than them, and much cheaper. Much cheaper. I personally would never waste my time leveling up the squad, and especially not paying for these SMGs. Now, after we had one bad unlock, we get one of the best, possibly the best unlock in the campaign, and it's the level 23 engineers with the FG42 normal version. Now here, this is the point where it becomes ridiculous, because you clearly start to overpower the American forces, because when you unlock tanks, well, you had good tanks, but the Americans already have the Jumbo, which is better than everything you have. Absolutely overpowered. You have the Junkers, but the Americans have the P-47, which is also better than everything you have. And besides that, you literally don't have anything really good. And while the Americans get some Thompsons with some really good damage, you get some strange random SMGs. So currently you are completely behind when it comes to power level relative to the Americans. But here you get the FG42. And this is no joke. It's absolutely ridiculous. As you saw in the clip, it's a semi-auto that you can give to all the normal soldiers. So this can become your standard weapon, although in real life it was very limited and expensive, extremely expensive. If you want to buy a real one yourself, well, you better be ready for bad versions or like damaged versions, pay $300,000. And if you want some good versions, they cost more than 500,000, because they were only made around 5,000 of them in real life, of the first version. The second version had a little bit more. They had around 8,000, because the FG42 was easier and cheaper to produce, but still very expensive to produce and by very few soldiers used. But still so good that they were used up until 20 years ago in Iraq. So absolutely strong weapon. Now in game it gives you the advantage of a semi-auto, meaning you get semi-auto mode, you get typical semi-auto damage, and you get, here comes the first advantage, a very good fire rate. You get okay reload speed, and now the biggest advantage, you get full auto. Full auto together with a 20 round magazine, which is the biggest semi-auto magazine that you get for the Axis, is ridiculous. Now this weapon combines so many advantages together with lots of swag that it just becomes amazing. The sights are really good after you got used to them, which takes only a couple of games. Now I recommend using it the following way. When you just get it, only use it in semi-auto, because full auto has very high recoil damage. The recoil is ridiculous and you won't be able to spray it. So only spray it once you have all of the 6 stars and preferably also the recoil reduction perk. Now after you got that, This weapon becomes a pure beast because then you can also start spraying with it. And at mid and long range, you just basically only want to semi-auto because it's so good, you have so many bullets, and you're so fast that as long as you tap enemies with semi-auto fire, you're gonna kill them all. But if you have a group of enemies next to you or even at mid-range, just spray into them. Just spray into them, and together with the combination of high damage or at least good damage and 20 rounds and a fast fire rate, most of the time you will be able to spray down whole squads without them being able to hit you once. So this weapon is absolutely amazing. An absolute beast on all ranges, and the fact that you can give it to basically all soldiers means that, well, your engineers, great fighters, great fighters. Your anti-tank gunners can survive any battle. Even your flamethrowers can have the FG-42. Absolutely ridiculous and strong. There's only one downside, and it's the magazine size. This weapon is so strong that it gets balanced with a low magazine size. Before the recent January update, it even only had 20 additional rounds. So you absolutely had to use large ammo pouches, because otherwise the weapon sucked. You barely didn't have any ammunition. Now you actually have enough ammunition. I still recommend to give your soldiers some ammo pouches, because without ammo pouches that I'm desperately trying to find on any of them, well, here he has some. You get at least 100 rounds together with 20. So yeah, you can actually spray bullets. Engineers though don't need ammo pouches because they can build ammo boxes, so you can just give them grenade pouches instead. I guess they got shy. Level 25 brings you something very controversial, and it's the MG42. Now, controversial because of the following statement. It's a quite good upgrade over the MG34 because it gives you a little bit better recoil and a little bit faster firing rate, a little bit better sights, and mostly it just gives you a much cooler firing sound. Now, these are all upsides, but here comes the downside. It costs more. It costs 3 silver compared to 2 silver, meaning it also has a much higher last upgrade cost with bronze orders compared to the MG34. So if you want to save bronze, this is not really worth it. And this is the Machine Gunner 2 squad. Usually this would be the last Machine Gunner squad and level in the campaign, but Normandy gives you Machine Gunner 3s. Machine Gunner 3 though comes with a much better machine gun. So since this isn't much better than the MG34, I actually recommend just keeping the MG34 and not wasting any time to level the squad, and also not wasting any orders to buy this, and just wait until you get the MG44. Now, it's gonna help you a lot being efficient with your orders, with your order economy. Same thing goes for the ZK383, very cool looking SMG, but just as we already explained, not really worth it. Level 27 gives you the, well, Fighter II pilot, and he brings actually a really good fighter plane because this one has 4 20mm cannons, which is really good, really good. And since they are spread around the wings, 2 of them quite centered, it's actually quite easy to hit your target. It's very hard to miss any enemy planes with this. Also, you get 2 heavy machine gun nests in addition, for good measure, and you get 2 rockets, very generous today, 2 rockets to actually hit some ground targets. This is actually a really good fighter plane. Not only can you completely shred through any enemy planes, you can easily shoot down whole bomber raids. You can shoot down all of the 5 bombers before they drop their bombs, which some people apparently don't get is the important part. Just grinding for experience doesn't really help teams in hard matches. And you get those juicy 2 rockets. So yeah, this is really worth using and leveling up if you like fighter planes. And at level 28, we finally get the Flametrooper II, 41 Flammenwerfer 41. Extremely strong. Reason for that is, you get the strongest specific soldier in the game, with one of the strongest weapons in the game, in one of the strongest squads in the game. Now let's take a look at them. They are, for some reason they have a Pegasus as an emblem. They give you access to 2 flamers in the squad, 7-man squad, like maximum size for normal squads except for Riflemen. Flamer 2 gets one of the best starting perks. It gets plus 12 additional life points, or that plus 12% life, and you can give him additional vitality. So these dudes basically have 1.5 times as much life as normal soldiers. And you can give them, because they have so much red perk points, you can give them passive health regeneration. So as long as, even if they got damaged or if they're barely alive, as long as you let them stay somewhere behind, they're gonna regenerate life and gonna be completely healthy after around 1 minute. And you can combine this with greater chance of being downed instead of dying. Now these 3 perks together with the normal perk makes sure you have a soldier that's very hard to kill. They're gonna survive lots of bombings, lots of high explosive shells and so on. So all of the explosions that are annoying people playing Normandy, these dudes are the best soldiers to survive them. And well, if you want to be aggressive, well, you just give them a FG42 to get close to the enemy, also a fast perk so you can run faster. Kill enemies from far away so they don't kill you. And once you're close enough, meaning 32 meters, just start spraying your fuel into them. And the Flammenwerfer 41, an absolute beast. Good distance, a good reach, very high damage, 200 rounds, completely destroys whole squads. Absolutely amazing. I strongly recommend having this flamethrower squad because whenever there's an emergency, this is one of the best squads you can have. And whenever you're capping and you see lots of enemies coming to defend, just spray the ground and make the ground burn. And the enemies won't be able to get close. So yeah, absolutely strong and nice. Now as we already expounded, the Beretta M38 with 40 rounds that you unlock at level 29 is in an extremely awkward spot, since in order to be good, it forces you to have all of the technology upgrades of the Assault 2 squad. But since we don't really, well, want to use our time and our orders for the Assault 2 squad, since it doesn't give us anything specific and strong compared to the MP40 we get much earlier and much cheaper, this is just simply not really worth it. Just give it to your random vehicle soldiers so they have some cool weapon that you can use for a change and a new experience from time to time, but it's not really worth using and upgrading unless you want to roleplay specific units in the Normandy. Well, then it can be good, but if you just want to play casually or if you want to power play, in both cases it's not really interesting for us. Level 30 though gives us an extremely good upgrade to your army, and it's the Panzerfaust 60. The Panzerfaust 60, well, I guess you don't need to hear much about it because everyone knows how strong this was. Panzerfaust 60 means its effective range is 60 meters. It shoots not in a straight line after the first 10 meters, so if the target is further away you need to aim a little bit upwards, but even if the targets are a little bit further away, the armor penetration is extremely good. The armor penetration of 18 centimeters means that you can one-shot most weak to medium tanks the Americans are going to bring to you. And even for the late game heavy tanks, shooting just from the side at a 90-degree angle is going to one-shot them. So yeah, use this thing. Absolutely amazing, absolutely strong. And the main reason why you want an anti-tank gunner in every single of your squads in Normandy you can just blow up all of the tanks and you will constantly see tanks in this campaign. And here at level 31 we finally get the little German tank king. We get the Panther A. Now this Panther tank is absolutely amazing. Reason for that is it has ridiculously good armament, ridiculously good, and it has a really good cannon combined with quite okay speed. Now this tank is almost indestructible for American tanks from the front. They can only deal with it if they shoot at it from the right. If you want a tank to gray zone camp and just blow up enemies, this is the tank. And it's also a tank that can reliably deal with jumbos, because the previous tanks could be quite comfortably destroyed right from the front with one single shot by the jumbo. This tank can't. The jumbo can't destroy it just easily by shooting it to the front, so as long as you only present your front side towards the enemy jumbo, which you most of the time are gonna face, since this is the best tank the Americans get and the most important matchup for all the German tanks. As long as you just keep confronting it with your front side, he won't be able to do much against you. And on the other side, you can one-shot him very easily if you shoot into his weak spot, which is at this side. So yeah, this is a very important tank, because this tank makes sure you get a tank superiority, and absolutely worth it. Absolutely worth it. Also the Tanker 3 squad, worth it, because later you get the Tiger that you also use with this squad. So you absolutely want to level up your Tanker 3s, give them nice perks, so you have a really lovely compiled little crew for your strong, overpowered Axis tanks. One level later, level 32, you finally get the Assaulter. Now the Assaulter 3 is another huge power jump, because if you play for maximum efficiency, you still will be using your MP40s, because these weapons aren't really worth it. These four, although quite cool and gives you some nice change compared to other typical German SMGs, they're too expensive, way too expensive, and too uncomfortable to level up. This here, this first assault rifle that you get for the Axis is absolutely worth it. Absolutely worth it, and the squad is absolutely worth leveling up. Not only are Assaulter 3s much better in terms of perks, especially with the beginner perk, the plus 100% health restored by Medpack, which is a really good perk, by the way. They also, well, give you access to the MP43 that you want to level up, and to the STG-44 later. Now, one of the best things about the MP43 is the logistical part, or the economical part, because you don't need to level it up to be better than the MP40. So usually, if you unlock this new squad, you can't just buy a bunch of these and give it to your, for example, previous Assaulter squad, because the unupgraded versions, for example, only with 3 stars, will be worse than the upgraded previous weapon. These, though, are already better. If they come with just 3 stars, they're already much better than an MP40. So you don't even need to unlock them and level them up to become extremely strong. So yeah, absolute must-have. If you play Normandy Axis, this is possibly the most important squad for you to play, because the assault rifles are just absolutely amazing and super fun to use. Same thing goes, by the way, for the Riflemen III with the anti-tank grenade launchers.
Kontrollpunkt verloren. Zurückfallen.
Now, this squad, if you have enough orders, becomes really worth it using. If you don't have enough orders, you don't need to use it. Reason for that is the following. Riflemen III, literally not in terms of perks, not much better or not significantly better than Riflemen II. Only difference is that you get a anti-tank grenade launcher instead of a normal grenade launcher. Normal grenade launcher only deals damage to infantry. Anti-tank grenade launcher also can blow up tanks. Now, you can blow up tanks in rare cases, but you need to either hit very lucky or perfectly aimed. Most of the times it means lucky, or you hit perfectly from the side into a weak spot. So how you usually use it, you just shoot it into normal infantry, because anti-tank grenade launchers also deal the same damage to normal infantry soldiers. So if you have enough orders, use these, buy a bunch of them, give them to your enemy, give them to your soldiers. Of course, let them dual wield, so you get twice as many grenades as you usually would have. Also, you can, once you use your soldier, instantly equip the grenade on him. So you can have the grenades to shoot, and if you encounter a single enemy, just switch over to your second weapon and just shoot him with the normal bolt action. So yeah, worth it if you have many silvers. If you don't have too many silvers, or if you want to be efficient, they're just a waste, so you can theoretically save them. But if you want a perfectly max power Axis army, they are really worth it, because around half of the time the additional utility against enemy tanks will be relevant. Now at level 34 you get another really good attacker plane, and the Messerschmitt 410 has, well, 4 cannons, 4 rockets, and some really nice additional machine guns for not only defending yourself from behind, but also shooting at enemy planes. Now, this thing is actually much better at hunting down enemy planes than the Junkers, because even though the Junkers has 4 crewmates specifically there to shoot down enemy planes, with this thing you can do it yourself, and yourself are gonna be aiming much better at enemy planes than the bot AI. But overall, when it comes to bombing power and overall damage on the ground, the Junkers is better. This thing though is more fun to use, because you can actually, instead of just dropping bombs, you can actually fly around, throw rockets, and shoot with your cannons on ground or air targets. So it depends on taste. Now, if you want to be reliably able to shoot down enemy planes too, for example the overpowered P-47, then this is the pick, because this thing can do reliably both. So if you only have one vehicle squad that you want to use for planes, and you want the perfectly flexible plane, this is the perfect pick for you. That's why it also comes so late. It may look a bit weaker overall than the Junkers, but the flexibility makes it worth it. And now, after a long waiting time, you finally get the maximum power machine gun for the Axis. And it's the MG34 with, well, an additional magazine. This thing has 75 rounds instead of 50. Now if you look at it, it should have 100, but for balancing reasons you get 75. But it's absolutely okay. It's absolutely okay, because this thing just shreds through enemies. Now the difference between 75 and 50 isn't just 50%, it's actually being able to reliably kill 2 squads in a row without getting killed. Or absolutely surely kill 1 squad, even with the worst aim in the world. Now, the normal version with just 50 rounds sometimes doesn't give you enough rounds to kill a squad, and you run out of bullets and get shot. This thing though always has enough bullets. It always has enough bullets, and since you want to dual wield your machine guns, as our trusty Willy does, well, yeah, he's very experienced, as you can see, in battle, and he survived lots of battles. That's why he became so old. Reason for that is, well, his secret is dual wielding machine guns, because then you shoot with your first machine gun, and instead of reloading for 5 seconds mid-combat, you just quickly switch to your second machine gun, and you have 75 new rounds. And this takes you only like fractions of a second instead of 5 seconds. This is literally the difference between killing one squad and then a second, a third squad, or dying somewhere in between. And in terms of perks, Machine Gunner 3, absolutely worth it. Reason for that is, Machine Gunner 2 very often doesn't give, it's possible for Machine Gunner 2s to have 22 yellow, but very often they won't. And Machine Gunner 3s basically always get 22 yellow. So you really want the additional, well, weapon handling bonus, so you can give them the 14 plus 8 combo. Meaning you can get sprint speed for green, vitality for red, and then the 2 perfect synergistic yellow perks. And for perfect balancing, just give as a last perk, give him the fast weapon changing speed, so you can actually change even faster between the weapons. Together with this perk, the switch is basically instant. You can't even count the milliseconds, and you're gonna have a very strong, very effective killing machine with your machine gunner squads. Now, right after that, you get the perfect tank killing machine, and it's the Tiger E. Now, the Tiger is the absolute undisputed king of Normandy. Reason for that is, not only has it the maximum swag in terms of look and in terms of how popular and iconic it is, no, it also has the strongest cannon for regular tanks, an 88mm cannon, extremely effective. It one-shots basically every American tank, for very few exceptions, no matter where you hit them. So if you hit any American tank from the side, it instantly dies, absolutely no chance, and most tanks die from the front. The best thing is, even if they try to gray zone camp, your cannon still hits them. It still hits them from the front. This is absolutely amazing. So this is the best anti-gray zone tank that you can wish. So no more dirty playing against you and your team. And you can also survive all of the counterfire, because look at this. You have some weak... You can theoretically be killed if the enemy hits into these weak areas here, but he needs to aim very perfectly. And if you're too far away, well, bad luck for the enemy. Yeah. So yeah, the only weak spot it has is basically the side turret. If you get any TNTs on top of your tank, he instantly dies. But even when it comes to bazookas, they don't hit the weak side spot. As long as he hits the front, you won't even feel it. You won't be even scratched. And TNT packs that don't land on the weak spots also don't really scratch you. So yeah, this is amazing. You can even survive most bomb attacks. So absolutely amazing. A little bit slow though, but well, you don't really want to rush things. You can stay in the background and just keep slowly advancing while you're destroying everything in front of you. Now, if you want to get additional anti-tank capabilities, here you get them. You get the very late the anti-tank gunner 2 squad with the Ofenrohr. Now the Ofenrohr is basically what happens when the Germans capture bazookas and just replicate them. Now this thing is very similar to a bazooka, though it has a disadvantage. When you shoot a rocket, it becomes so hot right in front of you that you may burn your face. That's why you see the soldier wearing a gas mask without a filter. You wear it in order to protect your skin from the heat, not in order to protect you from fumes. So you don't need a filter, which makes the mask very light, and you just run around looking very strange, having issues with breathing, but it's still better than burning your face. So this thing reliably destroys enemy tanks. Is it better than the Panzerfaust though? Here's the thing, it flies in a straighter line, and it's better at long, like you can kill targets from longer away, from farther away. So the range is already an advantage, but it sometimes deals less damage. So well, overall, you can say it really literally doesn't matter. Like I just have one Ofenrohr and I use it on one squad. I don't even know which. And the other squads still have Panzerfausts, and I literally don't care. So yeah, like if you want to be historically accurate, give your soldiers a mix. You don't even need, if you want to be complete maximum power level, you don't even need only Ofenrohrs, because the Panzerfaust isn't much worse. Some situations it's even a bit better. So yeah. Anti-Tank Gunner 2 though, absolutely worth it, because having better perks makes it possible to, well, give your army an additional power level. I currently only have Anti-Tank Gunner once, but after I've finished leveling up this squad, I will put Anti-Tank Gunner 2s everywhere to have quite a perfect army. Now, after this, you get the STG-44.
Du Bastard! Endlich!
This is the undisputed king of SMGs and assault rifles in Normandy. Reason for that is, it's a slight upgrade compared to the MP43, but, well, it is an upgrade. So, I recommend, once you unlock the previous Assault Artillery squad, don't buy yourself, buy yourself the MP43s, but don't level them up, because they're very expensive to level up, and you can just wait until you get the STGs, and then you buy yourself the STGs and level them up, because these you're gonna keep forever. This is the absolute best assaulter weapon in the whole campaign. Also one of the best, possibly the best, assaulter standard weapon in the whole game. Reason for that is very simple. It combines very high damage together with a perfect firing rate, together with very low recoil. You have basically zero horizontal, and the vertical recoil gets completely marginalized with vertical recoil reduction perk. Good reload speed, a really good magazine size of 30 bullets. Keep in mind, really good means you have so high damage that this is other SMGs, in order to create this damage output, would have like 50 rounds. Yeah. And people would call them amazing because they have 50 rounds. This thing doesn't even need high magazine sizes because it has very high damage. It 2 shots on low, but also on medium range. And this is exactly the magical numbers where most SMGs fail, because here many SMGs need 3, sometimes even 4 hits. You can reliably kill every single soldier in the game with just 2 hits. And you can basically on every distance kill an enemy soldier with a headshots. Meaning, if you play the beach maps, you can just spray fire into the gray zone and still one-shot enemies with headshots. This is absolutely unique. No SMG can do that. Only assault rifles. So yeah, absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. And if you want, you can even semi-auto it, but I recommend never doing it, because if you just tap, you can use it on full auto to still do one single shot. So yeah, the absolute king in terms of assault rifles. And the last upgrade you get, well, this is the, let's call it prevention of power creep. It doesn't give you anything additional in terms of power, but it gives you a nice, interesting alternative to play. This is basically an anti-tank gun with an extremely low profile, and from the front it's quite hard to kill and penetrate. Yeah, so this thing, really hard to kill. If you want to make 1000% sure you kill enemy tanks in the gray zone, whip out this bad boy and sneak up on it from your gray zone and just one-shot any enemy tanks. One-shot any enemy tank, and you can be sure he won't hit you back because you're very hard to hit. Even if he hits you, it won't do anything. The back sides and the sides themselves are basically made of paper, especially when it comes to late game weaponry. So this literally can only be used from the gray zone, and you don't really have, you don't have machine gun. Well, you have a machine gun though, but you don't have a flexible turret. You can't move it that much. Yeah, so you can't aim with it that well. You can't really use it like a normal machine gun. So yeah, it's very cumbersome, very clumsy, but for, like LARPing, for role playing within the game, it actually doesn't work. So you can use it. Also, the problem is it's the alternative to the Tiger. So you can all either use the Tiger or this thing. And well, overall the Tiger is obviously better. But if you want to have a different experience and play the Tiger constantly, you want to have a nice new, well, type of game style, just try this one out for fun. It can be good. Alright, when it comes to extra swag, you on the one hand have a rocket launcher tank, which is only good for gray zone camping because it's easily destroyed by everything. But if you want to feed a snail with lots of gold and dollars and euros, and if you want to camp in the gray zone and shoot extremely strong 150mm rockets at your enemies, this is worthwhile. And the fancy thing is, it's completely different from the American one. The American one has weaker rockets, but many more of them. This one has very few rockets, but extremely strong rockets. Now, you also get a bunch of gold order vehicles and a bunch of gold order soldiers. If you want to have an extremely perfect fast start, get yourself the engineer. So you can have an engineer very early on. You can also have a Riflemen III very early, which basically has, well, it's not really worthwhile buying. I bought him for fun, but you can get an Assaulter III, which can be good because of additional perks. You can get pilots and tankers. Overall, not that worthwhile getting, except for the engineer maybe. But the gold order weapons are ridiculous. Now, these are the old ones that you don't really want to use. The Gewehr Kurz 43 is one of the best weapons in the whole game, also one of the best gold order weapons, though it won't be buyable for too long anymore. Now, but you don't even need it, because now you get these two. This thing is basically an MP43, and you can get many of them. You can buy it in 3 or 4 campaigns for the Axis. So yeah, you can buy it in other campaigns too and transfer it to this campaign. This is really, really good. It's basically an MP43 that you can get right at level 1. But even if you already maxed the campaign, and look at the video just now, well, guess what? This thing is going to be even better than the STG-44, because this is a machine gun, literally, that is classified as an assault rifle. So you can give it to your normal assaulters. You can run with it like with an assault rifle, and a submachine gun, and it has a ridiculously high fire rate, like a PPSH, combined with quite low recoil, combined with an extremely overpowered 100 round magazine size, and also quite good damage, because the damage is higher than PPSH. So this is literally one of the best weapons in the whole game, and best means it's even stronger than the other OP weapons. Absolutely amazing. And you can get one in Berlin too, transfer it to Normandy, so you can get 2 of them. So theoretically, if you have 4 gold orders and want to spend them, you can just get yourself 2 of them and 2 of them, and you're gonna get a ridiculously overpowered assaulter squad right from the beginning. When it comes to equipment, I recommend, as usual, get yourself Axis for every engineer, and possibly also for flamers and machine gunners, so the squads that are usually very slow with their weapons, so you can move them fast. You can give them to pilots too, because if you jump out of a plane, you usually get teleported 150 meters away from the action, and an X together with a flask helps you get very quick to the action, especially if you're using the Junkers, because you want your paratroopers to be, well, mobile and fast. So give them 2 weapons, give them an X and a flask, so they become very quick and swift. And when you start the campaign, buy yourself 10 explosion packs. You're gonna get around 10 to 15 over the course of the campaign from the different squads that you unlock. So just buying 10 of them makes sure you will have enough explosion packs for all of your soldiers. And besides that, it's nothing too special, except for the white phosphorus grenades.
Shot the shit out of them with a... what's it called? Oh my god, the white phosphorus.
Is that ours or theirs?
Don't know, I just know there's phosphorus everywhere, bro.
Which are literally toxic and very strong and powerful. I personally don't use them, but if you want to have some extra fun tormenting your enemies, and annoying them. This is really effective. I recommend getting 1 or 2 anti-tank mines in every squad, because there's going to be tanks in every single match, all of the time. And you usually can get 1 to 2 tank kills per match with these mines. So absolutely worth it. And of course the grenade pouches and large ammo pouches for your soldiers. I don't really recommend getting the early versions unless you have very many orders. This one's extremely overpriced because it costs silver. This just costs bronze, so it can be okay. But early on, just playing 2 weapons instead of an ammo pouch is just better usually. And in the late game though, when you get the absolutely overpowered weapons, you really want to have a large ammo pouch together with your STG, so you have actually enough bullets. And for your snipers, the same thing. Give your snipers a large ammo pouch and just start devastating your enemies with your infinite bullets. So that's it. Now you know everything you need to know to successfully prevent the Americans from landing on the mainland of Europe and to destroy those very nasty and pesky jumbo players and P-47 players. So until next time, goodbye and have nice games in Normandy.
Der Feind will den Kontrollpunkt einnehmen.